The First Voyage Around the World of Ferdinand Magellan by Antonio Pigafetta. These are the coverage of our report. Background of the author, the first voyage around the world, historical context of the document, analysis of the important historical information found in the document, contribution of the document in understanding the grand narrative in the Philippine history, and relevance of the document.
Antonio Pigafetta. He was born between 1480 and 1491. His parents was Giovanni Pigafetta and Angela Zoga. He is also Venetian and the eldest child among his two siblings. He studied astronomy, geography, and cartography. Served on board the ships of the Knights of Rhodes at the beginning of the 16th century. He was the right hand of Ferdinand Magellan during the voyage.
The historical context of the document. The ships. The government of Spain gave Magellan 5 ships for his expedition. Ferdinand Magellan led 5 Spanish ships and 237 men in what was to become the first voyage around the world. The names of the ships were Trinidad, San Antonio, Concepcion, Santiago, and the Victoria. The Spanish ships headed by Ferdinand Magellan was known as the Magellan Fleet, Armada de Molucca. The 5 ships are the Trinidad. It has 55 crew under the command of Magellan. The San Antonio has 60 crew commanded by Juan de Cartagena. The Concepcion has 45 crew commanded by Gaspar de Quesada. The Santiago has 32 crew commanded by Juan Rodriguez Serrano. And the Victoria has 43 crew commanded by Mendoza, which had preparations for supplies. The Santiago was classified as a caravel, while the rest were classified as carracks. Antonio Pigafetta, the book's author, was on board the Victoria at the end of the voyage. It was the only ship that could return to Spain. This is the map of Magellan's circumnavigation. As you can see in the map, you can see the route of Magellan's expedition. Antonio Pigafetta submitted copies of his narrative to various prominent personages upon his arrival in Europe, including Pope Clement VII, the mother of King Francis I of France, and others. His original diary has lost, and the language in which it was written is unknown. Survives in 4 manuscripts versions, 1 in Italian and 3 in French. The Navigator. Fernão de Magalhães in Portuguese, Fernando de Magallanes in Spanish. 38-year-old Portuguese when started the fleet, first European to cross the Pacific Ocean.
Analysis of the important historical information found in the document. In March 17, 1521, originally March 16, Aquada da Liboni Segnali was the name given to it by Magellan and his troops, also known the watering place of good sands. Arrival in Samar, but now in the present times it was called Samar. Humuno was the name of the island, now it was called Humonhon. Since there are many islands in that district, they are known as the San Lazaro Archipelago as they were found on the St. Lazarus Sunday. In April 1, 1521, originally March 31st, the first Mass in the Philippines was held in Masawa, also called Dimasawa. The Mass was attended by Magellan, Raja Colombo, Raja Siago, Spanish voyagers, and the local islanders. In April 8, 1521, originally April 7, Magellan and his crew reached Insultas port. Initially, Magellan and his men encountered some struggle when first entering the port of Cebu. The king of Cebu demanded the tribute from Magellan and his crew, but Magellan refused and told the translator that they were working for the king of Spain, threatening him. In April 15, 1521, originally April 14, Raha Humabon and his people attended the celebration, which included a mass. 800 souls were baptized that time. Pigafetta presented the queen with a picture of Our Lady, a lovely wooden child Jesus, and a cross. She requested the picture of the young child Jesus to replace her idols, and this image of the child Jesus is now known as the Santo Niño. In April 27, 1521, originally April 26, Lapu-Lapu, according to the Sula, the Mactan chief, refused to obey the King of Spain. Since they went to Mactan to gather provisions for their journey, Magellan was not pleased. To confront the other chief, Sula requested that the captain bring him only the boatload of sailors. With 3 boatloads, the captain general decided to travel there. But the captain did not want to fight them, but sent a message to the locals saying that if they obeyed the Spanish monarch, acknowledge the Christian king as their sovereign, and pay for a tribute, he would be their friend. In the year April 28, 1521, originally April 27, at midnight 60 of Magellan's men, including the Christian king, prince, some of the chief men, and 20 or 30 balangays headed out armed with corselets and helmets. The native islanders had bamboo lances and stakes that had been hardened by fire. They used a poisoned arrow to wound the captain's right leg and twice knocked his helmet off his head. At the same date, April 28, 1521, mortars killed 8 of Magellan's men and mortars killed 4 Indians. Only 15 men were killed of Lapu-Lapu's men. According to Antonio Pigafetta, Pigafetta describes ancient Filipino weapons and armor identical to those used by Lapu-Lapu and his warriors in the Battle of Mactan. Now, let's talk about Ferdinand Magellan's death. It explains what the native islanders dressed, what they ate, how they communicate, and how they live at that times. Pigafetta's journal is the only known document about Lapu-Lapu's life. Due to the daily notes Pigafetta took and facts on the trip that he wrote about, it is now considered the best source of information about Filipino customs and usage in the early 16th century. It contains the first ever European vocabulary of Visayan words.
And let's proceed in the relevance of the documents. August 15, year 1519, Magellan's first circumnavigation of the globe began here, and the book served as a proof that the world is not flat but rather round. This book assists today's academic and student in comprehending the context of the Magellan expedition and the origin of the entire Europe-Philippine War. Magellan discovered the Pacific Ocean by sailing west. Magellan demonstrated that there was a way to the Cas. We've always thought of this issue as the beginning of the Spanish era, with Magellan as the Philippines feeling, without considering the background and other motivation for the journey. The expedition took place between 1519 and 1522. Due to the various discoveries made by the Voyage, it has opened many opportunities for Spain as well as many other countries throughout the world. Because of how other countries were presented to European countries, the world became a more globalized society. Businesses grew as a result of the various discoveries that made up the various products. Collaboration were also established that benefited all the parties involved.
Contribution of the document in understanding the grand narrative in Philippine history. On March 16, 2021, we will commemorate the 50th anniversary of the arrival of Europeans in the Philippines. It is a day that means different things to different countries and their peoples. To the Philippines, that first contact meant an introduction to the Western world, the impetus in the eventual formation of its territorial identity, often a common consequence of empire building, and the beginning of its journey toward nation building. The importance of having knowledge of the first voyage by Magellan around the world allowed the account or record made by the Italian explorer Antonio Pigafetta, who was with Magellan during their voyage.
The biography of Ferdinand Magellan. He was born on February 3, 1480 in Sabrosa or Porto. His parents was Ruby de Magallanes and Alda de Mesquita. Ferdinand Magellan died on April 27, 1521 in Mactan, Philippines. Ferdinand Magellan family are members of the Portuguese nobility. At an early age, he became a page to Queen Leonor, wife of John II, reigned 1481 to 1495, and sister of Manuel I, reigned 1495 to 1521 in Lisbon. He is a Portuguese navigator and explorer who sailed under the flags of both Portugal in 1505 to 1513 and in Spain in 1519 to 1521. From Spain, he sailed around South America discovering the Strait of Magellan and across the Pacific. Though he was killed in the Philippines, one of his ships continued westward to Spain, accomplishing the first circumnavigation of Earth. The voyage was successfully terminated by the Basque navigator Juan Sebastian del Cano. The first voyage around the world. Antonio Pigafetta's The First Voyage Around the World was written on board one of the 5 ships that became the first to sail around the world during an expedition led by the Portuguese explorer Ferdinand Magellan and followed by Juan Sebastian Elcano. After his death during the voyage, the mission began in 1519 and finished in 1522 in Spain.
And that's all our report about the first voyage of Ferdinand Magellan. Thank you for listening.